Hello everybody and welcome back to another video for the day. We're going back into r/talesofneckbeard, and if you guys would like to be absolutely amazing, show your support, and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up some wholesome internet discussions, recommend a game you like. I don't know, I saw somebody before mention Hollow Knight, and I remembered that I had it on PlayStation Network, so you know what? Yeah, if you say something and I like it, maybe I'll give it a shot. I played a little bit of Hollow Knight before, and this is actually a pretty good thing to come back to. Our first story comes to us from the username Simone Says. A guy tries to manipulate me into being a friends with benefits. TLDR is at the end. This story is one that still really messes with my head, but I feel it may help get it off my chest. I have been seeing TimTamTom's videos. I never get tired of seeing my own name pop up in these stories, discussing these things, and it somehow makes me more comfortable talking about it. Honestly, that's just a side thing that I wasn't expecting people to be okay with, but I'm 100% for people being okay with doing this, and is what made me decide to do it. Okay, this is kind of just a side note thing it made me think of. I sometimes when I do these, it makes people more okay with being open with this kind of stuff, and I know a lot of times people are kind of anxious about how other people will receive this type of story or their own experiences, and honestly, like, talking about it is one of the first steps to feeling better. Like, I can't remember how long ago, but it was a story where one of the person's parents actually wound up emailing me, and they were just saying thank you for talking about this. If me doing these stories makes people more open and more willing to talk about their own experiences in the past, then I'm all for that, because that's one of the first steps to getting a better mental state and actually helping ease any type of anxiety or stress. TW mentions of self-harm, eating disorders, and SH. My school is really small and we didn't have a lot of kids. In the grade above me, there was a boy I'll just call Zach. He was always in my school since I could remember and never really stood out to me. It wasn't until middle school that I had the misfortune of meeting him. He was an e-boy who just wore hoodies and sexualized the heck out of Vocaloids who were mostly 14 to 16 years old. He also really liked anime and Asian culture, which I never really thought much about. I also liked some anime and very few Vocaloid songs. But as the years went on, I began to see his true colors. Zach is a very manipulative person who always tries to paint every situation as him being the nice guy who got hurt. He also never respected my opinions. Once at a football game, he tried to get me and my friend to hit off of a vape pen. A thing about me, I do pride myself on my innocence. I never had the need to do things like vape, smoke, hook up, steal, and stuff like that that's been seen as scandalous. I like to keep myself that way because I feel like it personally makes my life easier. I don't give a darn if people smoke around me or hook up. So long as me and my friends won't get into legal trouble, I couldn't care less. But he always poked fun at me for being this way. It never made me comfortable how he always sexualized things like Asians, trans girls, cat girls, and pure people. It always made me uncomfortable, and he'd bring up that kind of stuff, and I always tried to hint that I didn't like hearing about that, especially from someone I barely even knew. Also, I was 13. A few years went by, and our interactions faded, and he ended up in my sophomore English class. He had failed and had to retake it. He sat next to me and tried to not hold past S against him. I chalked it all up to puberty and kids being stupid, and thought he must have matured. I was wrong. When we would talk, it usually was fine. We would talk about anime, I'd tell him what happens in the manga, and he'd tell me what's different in the anime, or we'd discuss games. I liked having a friend that I could talk to about anime, but again, as he soon got more comfortable and showed his true colors. During my sophomore year, I had gotten out of a long-distance relationship. In this relationship, I was heavily sexualized. If I wasn't being yelled at, I was being urged to say inappropriate things or talk about it in that lewd kind of way. It really messed with my head because I am a male and I was dating a girl. I had always faced the stereotype of my rural town of boys like S and are horny 24/7. I thought I had to be that way, but soon I did begin to protest to my girlfriend, but I'd be gaslighted and threatened into complying. After we broke up, I blamed myself for all of it, and felt it was my fault for not liking it. It was really tender wound, and one day it was really getting to me. I told Zach a summarized version of the events. Thinking he'd be respectful, I added about how sexual things just make me even more uncomfortable than before, and made me just waken those repressed feelings during my time with my girlfriend. Me having this trauma of being this and forced to basically as my girlfriend every day for a year and hear her describe me in ways I didn't appreciate didn't change anything in Zach's interactions with me. He would mention lewd things once or twice, but we were older teens and it's expected. But what got me is that he kept doing it. He told me stories of girls he'd meet online and he'd ask for lewds. They'd get mad and stop talking to him. He'd always say how he's a martyr who is just a shy lad who can't talk to girls. I knew better, and my guard was always up since my ex. I knew he was just a freaking creep and was probably gonna try the same with me or one of my female friends. And I was right. He talked to me once about how one of my friends is pretty and talked about her in a very lewd way, saying he wants her as a friends with benefits. I told him to stop talking about her like that and that I don't want to hear. He responded with something I'll never forget. Come on, I'm a guy. What do you want me to do? As days passed, he kept bringing up lewd things and say, we're guys being dudes, even though it kept making me really uncomfortable and made me feel like I was reliving my ex. But he began to do more than that. It started out with me holding my hand. The first time it happened, it really was a joke. At least, that's how I saw it, and it lasted for only a few seconds before I pulled away and continued with my work with a laugh. But after that day, he kept grabbing my hand, and even though I tried to pull it away, he'd put his other hand on top of mine and press my hand to the desk. He'd give me these sad puppy dog looks, and it did work in a way. I didn't want to be seen as the dong who didn't accept the emo boy's advances. I always tried to avoid him grabbing my hand. I'd keep my hand in my pocket or under my arm. But when he didn't get to hold my hand, he changed the target to my thigh. He would grab my thigh and make comments about them, and even though I'd tell him to stop, he wouldn't. He'd hug me, grab my arm and shoulders. It was turning into my relationship with my girlfriend. The bond we had was gone, and all we had now was them looting me. I was aware of it, but I was ashamed to tell others, and was scared I'd be blamed, or he'd be seen as a poor nice guy. Eventually, he'd hint wanting lewds from me, to want a friends with benefits, to say how virgins are really hot and that you take their purity. Just typing it makes me sick. I know the feeling. I'm the one who have to read this. I'll tell you that, it don't put a good feeling in my mouth. For context, I haven't even kissed anyone. He'd always talk about how it's hot and give me weird looks, and I always felt uncomfortable. There are two situations that broke me. I was at my locker when a male friend slapped his hand on my shoulder, and it's like my body and mind agreed it was Zach. I turned and had a hand ready to hit him, but I saw it was my friend, and he looked equally surprised. I apologized and just said he scared me. That made me realize that it's gotten to the point where my body thinks I'm in danger if someone touches me, even in a situation where I know I'm around friends. After that, I tried stop talking to Zach. I would give him more one-word answers to everything, praying he'd take the hint. But soon, the same male friend I almost hit pulled me aside during lunch one day and told me about how Zach was barging to him in another class about me. But Zach was saying how he wants me as a friends with benefits and probably has me wrapped around his finger. My friend told him I don't like that stuff, especially because of my ex, and Zach said it basically is an act of innocence. That I was acting innocent or just was innocent and needed to be taught about this stuff. I knew that was what was going on. I knew all along, but hearing it being confirmed by someone and knowing he bragged to my best friend about this is what broke my mind. The rest of the day I was disassociated and had a meltdown when I got home. That same day, I had let out our puppies, and being puppies, they would try to jump on me, and their paws on my legs just made me freak out. I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic for something like grabbing my thigh, but please keep in mind that what happened prior, the stereotype of boys liking that stuff, and him not even liking me romantically, just seeing me as a friends with benefits candidate. And also, this has been happening every day for months. When I went back to school, I sat away from him. My teacher never said anything. I think he had a good idea of what was going on, and I later told him in a writing assignment that when a kid mentioned how I was out of my assigned seat, he just goes, "I don't care, he's an exception." Don't blame him for not talking to me, though. I didn't go too in-depth about it, and just made it sound like Zach couldn't take a hint, and I don't want to date him. I was too embarrassed to admit he made me feel so gross and caused me so much emotional distress. When I finally began to tell my friends what all had happened, a friend said, "Aw, he's just lonely," and so I stopped telling people. For nearly 2 years, I didn't talk about it, but I didn't realize how badly the whole deal affected my mental health. Even today, if a dog jumps on my leg, I just get that same uncomfortable feeling, and it sometimes is so bad that I feel a hand there hours later. I once had a college class with a boy who sounded exactly like Zach, and I had to leave early because I could feel his hands on me and it began to make me cry. After that year, I had a class with Zach. Thankfully, the virus happened, and for all of his senior year, he was virtual and I didn't have to see him again. During my summer break, however, I went to our local dollar store, and who the frick do I find behind the counter? Yeah, that's right, him. He's all, "Oh, hi, I've missed you. Why haven't you messaged me on Discord?" Frickin' course he uses Discord as a main thing. My mom was there and had no idea of the situation, and I didn't want her to know, so I just said something like, "I'm bad at working Discord, and it's possible I just accidentally deleted our conversation. I tried to delete server chats and accidentally deleted friend combos," which is partially true. I have no idea how to use mobile Discord. He seemed to buy it and then said, "Here, I'll give you my number. Text it to make sure it works." I wanted to run out of the store, but I added his number. Later in the car ride home, he texted me about his job and said how he has a lot of extra cash. I was just apathetically responding, and then he said, "Want some, kitty face?" Now, this may have been the paranoia, but I assumed he wanted to buy my body. I just said, "Nah, I'm good." And that was the end of the conversation. I later blocked his number and later told my mom everything during a breakdown. Seeing him again made me relapse in every coping mechanism from my ED and self-harm. It got so bad that I had a meltdown in front of my mom, which I haven't had since I was like 10. During it, I told her everything about Zach and my ex. My mom decided we won't go to the store he works at, and if we do, I will stay in the car and she'll be a bee to him at every chance she gets. I love my mom. It's been roughly 2 years since all of it happened. I still experience what I call the phantom hands, but it's a lot less frequent, and I see a therapist who helps me work with the trauma. I still pride myself on my purity, but now I hold it even closer to my chest, and am a lot more adamant on keeping it just to ensure that I don't get sexualized again. I try to not make new friends out of the fear it'll happen all over again. I know it's an irrational fear, but I only do it to avoid the constant paranoia of, is it all happening again? I'm sharing this story for 2 reasons. 1, to vent and get it off my chest, and 2, to share a story of a male victim of this. I hardly hear stories of male victims of these kinds of things, and that's part of the reason why I found it hard to believe it was okay for me to not like what was happening. I really hope that soon boys who are in my position don't feel like they have to be like that because of the gender norm. Or anyone, for that matter, has to feel obligated to like those things. It's a part of my life that's clouded by just feeling disgusting, scared, ashamed, and upset. I understand I got luckier than others who experienced similar situations, and I'm really grateful no one forced themselves onto me. But for me, it was all just about being seen as a toy and not a human being. It's something I always tried to avoid, but failed twice. Zach was just the one who left a permanent mark and really tore me to shreds, the most out of the 2. Thank you for reading all of this. Sorry it's really long. I tend to write a lot more than I need to. This also is a story I've been really needing to get out there, and I appreciate you reading it. thank you again, and have a great day, and never let someone convince you into thinking you have to like that kind of stuff, no matter your gender, age, sexuality, or past experiences. TLDR, guy who was creepy when I was younger, turns out to be a manipulative a-hole who sexually ate SH, even after he knew I got out of a year-long distance relationship where I was heavily sexualized by my ex. He insisted we were guys being bros. Now we're not even bros. Dude, if you're watching this, I sincerely hope that you're doing okay, and for your mom, you're a good parent. Thank you for helping your kid out and doing the controlled Karen thing on that one dude that was being an absolute piece of... I can't say the rest of that word. You're a good parent, and keep being a good parent to your kid. And I know for a fact coming out of a bad relationship can mess up your head for years to come, and this is very much something I'm speaking from experience. So, very much, if you have a way to get something off of your chest, it's always good to talk about it. So I hope you're doing well, eating well, and staying hydrated. Our next story comes to us from username Charred Tripe. Not all neckbeards look like a blob of grease. Sometimes they look nice. Hello, I would like to tell you a story about a particular neckbeard. Sorry for my bad English, as it's not my first language. Anyways, back in high school, I dated a guy. Let's call him P. He was my first boyfriend. My friends invited me to join an anime club because why not? I love meeting new people with same interests, so there I go. It didn't take me long to get the club members to acknowledge me and get along really well with them, but I still not opening myself up to them. There's no schedule in this club, and we gather up almost every day, talk about anime and stuff. One day, I tell them that I'm a fortune teller, not an expert though, and they got thrilled up. They would come to me every other day to get a reading. Since then, I started to open up to them little by little. They got drawn into me as time goes, and then there's P. P was quite a looker with a decent build and a pretty tall at around 180 to 188 centimeters. Of course he had a neck beard, but not a shrub of beard, more like a short beard. You got the idea. P was my upperclassman and 2 years older than me. He's a pretty fun guy, but can get rough sometimes. One day, he asked me for my number, so I gave it to him, and then since then, he started to talk even more often and getting closer by the day. He started to get touchy and oftentimes would sit close to me. So touchy and close, he cut a few strands of my hairs with a cutter. Of course, I feel irritated and angry, but I couldn't express my emotions that well, so I just cussed at him with a joking tone. I forgave him later that night. On March, my friends and P decided to watch a Sword Art Online movie at the mall. P gave me a ride at the mall and also bought me snacks and a soda. And the movie's over, he gave me a ride home and bought foods for my family. The next day, he texted with me more often than usual and asked me to do some readings. He told me if I can guess what he's thinking correctly, he will buy me a bowl of ramen. I started to close my eyes and let the universe whisper. I started seeing things so familiar as if I were seeing them myself. I stopped when it reached the shoulders. I told him everything that I saw. He nodded at every guess, and boy, I was shocked. After the reading, he told me that he has feelings for me, and confessed. So excitedly, I got sweaty palms and trembling like a chihuahua on Christmas. We started to date. At first, it was fine. We do movie dates sometimes, and it infuriated me because I'm not allowed to choose the movie, and he held my hand the entire time, like it was cemented. Imagine watching a movie and you're not interested in it, bored, and on top of that, leaving the theater with sweaty palms. One time after watching a horrendous movie, I asked him to go to the arcade center with me, and he refused. Instead, he gave me his card thingy and to tell me to play on my own while he was looking at bikes. I was, okay, fine, I'll have fun by myself, and the day ended. After 1 month of dating, he started to get on my nerves. He sent me pics and tips on how to enlarge your boobies, as if he were telling me my bob wasn't big, and it kinda hurts. I told him, so you like big bobs, don't you? Why don't you date my friend? She has it bigger. And he apologized and pleaded that I'm the one he wants. He also asked my bust, hips, and butt size. I ignored him since I was attending a Japanese course at the time. Is it this size? He replied. I forgot what it was. I replied annoyingly with yes, just to end the convo. Not enough by that, but he has the audacity to ask with a disgusting question. Have you ever tried whacking it? I feel disgusted by that question, but I don't know how to respond and sent him a no. He then replied with a bunch of stickers saying nice, good, and hooray. I lived in a place where such activity is labeled as bad or sin. It's still unacceptable to ask someone that kind of question, especially if you only have dated them for a month. Oh, and did I forget to tell you that he is extremely violent, irrational, dry, faking a disorder, and has a bad mouth? He was attending a prom, and the day before the prom, he texts me, I have a beef with this person and I'ma punch him right in the guts, in the middle of the event. I tried to console him. He insisted on punching the poor guy. I gave up, and he perked up like a child. Before we started dating, he told me that he liked a yandere type of girl, who will kill anyone that gets touchy with her special someone. And, I kid you not, he asked me to be one. I didn't do it, of course, and console him that it would be bad for both of us, and then he replied, I'm fine with that. You can kill everyone if you wanted to, even if it's my family and friends. I went quiet for a while and got home feeling weird. He's also dry as heck, as dry as dehydrated chips left in the Sahara. To me, a good laugh and some puns is a must in life. How can one live without it, right? No, there's P, who can't be entertained with simple puns or jokes, and he only is entertained by lewd jokes or stuff about off-brand. When I asked why is he so dry, he then replies that he has multiple personalities and is now fronting. I cringed. Sometimes later he texted me, we are P's personalities fronting you and would like to ask you questions. I cringed so hard I forgot what I was being asked. Though I'm not a psychologist whatsoever, I know that's not what the personality disorder looks like. Just curious about that. I met him and talked about it, and he told me that he'll get violent when he's extremely angry and would cry if he is sad. My man's so delirious he couldn't differentiate being emotional with having a personality disorder. And he dreamed of having amnesia so badly so he can restart his life like in an isekai. After 2 months of pain and cringeworthy dates, I decided to break up with him, and he rants about me not being honest whatsoever, and all my world were a lie to lure him, which clearly was not. After that, he thanked me for the time we've spent and changed his profile picture from an anime couple holding hands to a crying anime character with black and white. 1 year after we saw each other at an anime convention, I was with my friends and he was with his. Upon seeing him, my flight or fight response kicks in, but I have to conceal it and accompany my friend. When we were walking around, I felt like he was following us from afar. My friend stopped at a merch store and looking at the keychains. I kept my eyes on the keychains and tried not looking around. Suddenly, I feel as if someone is standing right behind me, so close, and wanted to grab my hand. I feel unsafe and told my friend to be quick. She paid for her keychains and we hastily run from there. After a few meters, we hide behind a food vendor and checking if it was really him who had been tailing me. And it was him. Gladly, I'm with my friend, and that's it. That's my story about a neckbeard named P. Yeah, that last part about the anime convention is 100% the main reason why I absolutely ask people to always be doing the buddy system at cons, especially if you are either underage or this is your first con. And yeah, for the whole title of the neckbeard, you don't have to look the part. Think of the whole like neckbeard status as more so like the Green Lantern mantle. You don't have to look the part, but you are that qualifying if you have the actions to do so that warrant you being that type of person. Like, you can watch some anime, you can talk about it, the manga, you can watch them off-brand from time to time, that's all perfectly fine, but just, like, don't try to be a tumor on society being that type of creepy person that will go up and just randomly grab people. It doesn't sound right at all. And not looking like the stereotypical neckbeard might get you the initial reaction, but there's no way you could hide a creepy personality for long. Our last story comes to us from username DakGwen. Neckbeard doesn't leave a tall trans alone. Hello Reddit, this is my first post ever, so I hope this is a good one to start off with. To give you some details about me and help set up the story, my name is Gwen and I'm a 19-year-old trans person, male to female, and I've got progress with my transition transition, which is helped by the fact that I'm pretty feminine for a guy. I'm also tall, which gives me the look of a tall female. I'm like 6'4" or 193.04 centimeters. I have been a major nerd and a major gamer my entire life. Now, on to the story. I was recently out with my older sister, which I will call M, because of her nickname, to go out and buy hair dye because I like dyeing my hair and I trust her to do it. I usually do more unnatural colors, but my sister convinced me to pick out more natural colors, so we got some more natural dye and however you put it. The hair dye place was nearby the classic gamer grounds, so I convinced my sister on us going to check out Gamestop for any sales. I play all kinds of different platforms, but I'm currently in the market for a Switch or the new Xbox. Was hoping maybe one or the other got returned so we could get it at a discount. The moment me and my sister entered the store, we got hit by a smell that could only be described as horrific. I should have known what it meant as I watched many r/Tales of Neckbeards, but sadly I was a fool and my lust for a new console was far greater than my self-preservation. Enter he, the Neckbeard himself. I quickly spotted the source of the foul smell coming from a shortish, overweight guy. There was only hair on his head that was in a ponytail, and a very bushy neckbeard that seemed to refuse to grow any longer. I at first don't judge, because I had a little bit of a phase in high school, but I throw that more into my depression kicking my rear then. I wanted to frame eye contacts and try not to talk to them, but I forgot some details. I just entered the GameStop. I'm tall, female look-wise, pasty, and the color blue and pink hair, and most of all, I had another shorter female with me. The guys were staring, but I was too phased, just knew I couldn't avoid the neckbeard realizing my presence. Me and my sister swiftly made our way to the counter and talked to the clerk, who was an average-looking guy. We asked if they had any used Switches or Xbox Series X's in stock, which he told us no. I'm pretty sure the neckbeard heard the conversation, but decided to wait his time. Me and my sister just decided we'd look at Switch games, because she really needs more. When we were talking about certain games and talked about others, I guess this is when the neckbeard decided to strike. His voice was booming, but if you deal with Xbox parties and small children, it wasn't too much of a scare. I heard you were looking for an Xbox and a Switch. His voice was booming, but with some sly hints. I answered like a dumb butt. Also, I speak with a country accent for those who might be curious. And whatever you're up to, I ain't scared. I figured that would be enough to make him lose interest, but I don't think he got the memo. Come, I'll buy you two fine ladies those consoles if you do me a favor. His being more gross, it made me uncomfortable, and I swore I heard the licking of lips from him. My sister is shorter than me and even sassier. She snapped out with him with, "What the heck? What would you even want from us?" The neckbeard leaned and could feel his dragon breath through my hoodie. I understand you two are dating, and I respect that, so I want to be able to watch and be intimate from a distance. Then he placed a hand on my shirt and my exposed wrist. I quickly yelled, "What the frick? She's my sister!" which was followed by me wiggling from his sweaty grasp and straight up backhanding them. I was in fight or flight mode, and I guess I had just chosen fight. To avoid any further issues, I was hurried up by my sister and we practically sprinted to the car. We left and it's been a good while. I haven't gone to a GameStop for a good bit and I plan on keeping it that way. I did most of my game shopping online anyhow, so not much of a loss. I hope this was interesting to read, even if by a tiny bit. TLDR, Neckbeard tries to bribe me and my sister into doing the deem in front of him and gets backhanded instead. Look, I know that there's like a category of that thing on the internet for like the incognito mode browsers, but that's the thing. It stays on the internet. No part of it is acceptable to randomly walk up to two people and say, "Hey, can I get this exact same thing from you guys if I buy you a game console?" That just sounds stupid. But with that is going to have to be it with the video. If you guys would love to be absolutely amazing, show your support, and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. Let me know what video games you'd like to see in the background. It might make it into a future video, you know, but I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.